All right. You hear me okay?
I hear you.
All right, great. I don't know if you got that from the text, but I'm putting together a book. It's going to be, about 100 pages or so of family history stuff, and they got some gaps on your family side, and so I just thought I'd talk to you, do this interview. So, if you don't mind, just go ahead and tell me about. Let's start with you, and tell me about your early life, and just chronologically walk through whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to tell about you. Basically, the kids are the audience here.
Okay. Uh, George Thornton, George Wesley Thornton, born December 3, 1947. And along with me, I have a sister. I have a twin sister,
Hmm.
uh, Betty Anita Thornton. I was born first, and there was 5 pounds 6 ounces for me, 5 pounds 13 ounces for her, I think. But it was real close. Mama did not know she was going to have twins, and that's just the way it went in 1947. I was born in Fitz White Clinic, Jackson, Tennessee. Uh, can't tell you much more about that. We lived in a big old house on East Chester Street. Uh, that's in the east side of Jackson. And mm, don't remember a whole lot more. We moved to Mifflin Road, which is also on the east side of town. Uh, a few years later, we had 10 acres. That was a lot of grass cutting for my brother and I. We would use a push mower, the old revolving kind. I would pull with a rope, and he would guide it with a with a rope. And so that's how we got it done. So that was our power mower. Uh, I always said that's how I was able to run so fast. That I got a good start on running. We started school at Beach Bluff Elementary, and at somewhere around the third grade, fourth grade, uh, Daddy sold the house, moved to town. So we left Beach Bluff and started school at East Chester uh, Elementary. We were there for 3, 7, trying to figure out how many years we were there. hadn't even thought about it. I graduated from high school while I was there, so it looks like I was there for a number of years. I don't remember when. Graduated high school in 1965. So chronologically, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So tell me about high school then. What'd you do in high school?
High school, uh, I played basketball, baseball. Uh, that's all we had. We didn't have any football, didn't have any other sports other than that. I was a I was a starter in my 11th and 12th grade year. Didn't score a lot of points. I was did fairly well defensively in basketball. In baseball, I was a catcher, and we were an old country school, so we didn't have a lot of kids participate. Uh, so we weren't strong. In other words, uh, we didn't win any championships or anything like that. But we were competitive. Uh, After I left high school,
Did you and Jim or Jim work at all during high school?
work.
Yeah.
We always worked. My daddy was in construction, heavy duty construction. He was a superintendent of a construction company. So we always had a job. Uh, Working concrete mostly. He built a number of major buildings, Milan High School, Milan Hospital, uh, several of the schools in the area. He built those. So we always had a job. We'd go on Saturdays and we would clean. I know we built one school there in Jackson Junior High, and Daddy had an operation on his knees because he walked on concrete so much he had to have his knees repaired. So my job was to push him around in a wheelchair.
Oh man.
And a lot of what I did was pick up Coke bottles because there were no cans. So people drank bottles of Coke, and I'd pick up as many as I could so we could, you know, ship them back. Let's see. When he quit building houses, he started tearing them down. It wasn't that he built many houses, he built major buildings, hospitals and schools mostly. But when he started wrecking buildings, tearing them down, it was mostly large buildings, like 2 and 3 stories. And we would take them down brick by brick. They were so big, the walls were 3 brick thick, and they would be 3 stories high. So we were talking about big buildings. So we cleaned the brick, all the mortar off the brick with a hand axe, and we sold them for a nickel a piece, which was good money. we sold all the lumber. Uh, one of the buildings that was built where we tore it down was the Coliseum there in Jackson, Tennessee. Anyway, we used the materials that we tore down uh, to help build that building. There's churches was there, and we tore them down and used those materials. But he just went around whenever there was a place that needed demolition work. My dad was the man for the area, and Jim and I were both the right age for doing that. I was 17, 18. He was 18, 19. He's a year older than I was. And so we always had a little bit of spending money. We each had a car. My sister, neither one of my sisters had a car. Both my brother and I had a car. I guess it's because we worked and made money, and they worked at home. They didn't get paid like we did, and we got paid well for mid 1960s. You say we would, I don't know, get $50, $60 a week, something like that, which was, to me, and that was good money. But we bought gas. We used that to date, go to the movies, go to ball games. But most of the ball games we didn't have to pay because we were in the games. I graduated in 1965, and I went to Freed-Hardeman School, Freed-Hardeman College. While I tried out for basketball, but I didn't make it. But while I was there, by word of mouth from one coach to another coach, to one school to another school, I got a track scholarship to run track out in Oklahoma.
Well,
And
can I go back just a second? What made you go to
yeah,
Freed Hardeman?
it was close. I just drove. It was only 20 miles, away.
Oh, okay.
But I did stay on campus, even though it was 20 miles away. My cousin, she wanted me to go there, and she helped Mama with the finances that it took to go to Freed-Hardeman.
Your cousin.
And Helen Carroll
Yeah.
was my cousin, and she wanted me to go there too. So they all arranged for me to get there. Well, after 1 year, I got a scholarship. So it worked out that I was able to move on to another school.
All
And it
right.
was
Well,
paid for. And it was paid for.
okay. What dorm did you live in at Freed Hardeman?
I started out in Paul Gray Hall, and then after 1 year, I moved across the street into a house. Uh, there were four of us guys that stayed in this house.
And who
And
were
of course,
they?
I can I cannot remember their names.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that something?
Well,
Gene Cashin was one of them. He was from Hamilton, Alabama, and I cannot remember the other guys' names. They were all a year older than me, but we were all math majors, so we all kind of had the engineer in math field that we wanted to get in. So then I got moved off to Oklahoma Christian College. One coach knew the other coach real well, and they had. He said, "I have this boy who can run real fast," and so just by word of mouth from one coach to another coach, I'm on a train heading for Oklahoma City. So that was quite an experience for me. Oh, I had to call the school, didn't know anybody, and have someone from Oklahoma Christian call the dorm and say, I need someone to come to the train station and pick me up. And so that's how you just did things. And people worked together. And it was interesting experience. Uh,
tell me about Roy Sharp and Brett Hesserow, or
Jerry Hesselrow.
Jerry. Okay, Hesserow.
Uh,
And Smith, I guess.
and Jerry Hesselrow was my roommate at Oklahoma Christian. And he was one of the dorm supervisors. Uh, he checked rooms, if or whatever you wanted to call him. So we ended up with kind of special privileges, you might say. Since we checked to make sure everybody was where they're supposed to be when they were supposed to be there. You had to be in at 10 o'clock, and it was checked. So that was neat. I did not have a car when I went out there. I had to sell my car to get enough money to get a train ticket to get out there. But after I got there, I was running track and I got stress fractures in my feet, in my ankles, and in my legs. So I had to forego my track experience. And so I got me a job at a funeral home. So I had to have a car to get from work to school. So I don't even remember how I got I remember the car cost $150. Jerry was my roommate. Roy Sharp and his wife were just close friends that we had at Frieder Hardeman. And when you had a group from Frieder Hardeman who all transferred and went out to another school, you just all stayed together. You had a pack. And we were bound together, I guess you might say. But I'm still seeing Jerry on a regular basis, him and his wife, and we go out to eat together, which has been real fun. We see Roy occasionally because his wife has passed, and he's not been, he's real sick himself. So we all hang tight, still at almost 80 years old, all of us. So
Wasn't there another Freed Hardeman out there? Who was that?
another what?
Freed Hardeman person out there?
All of us lived in the same dorm, well, same suite. There were two boys from Alabama who were basketball players that were instrumental in helping me get that scholarship. They lived in Florence, Alabama, and they were suite mates, you might say, in the same dorm. J.D. Moomaw and and became the biggest trophy business in the Midwest.
I'm
And
sorry, I
to
cut
this,
out right there. Did you repeat who that was?
that was David Smith.
David Smith,
David Smith.
brother of
Charlie Smith.
legendary Freed Hardeman guy, Charlie Smith. Yeah.
Yeah, they were both. And we all, like I said, we all stayed together. We just had a pack. And I'm trying to think of what else we can throw in there. Anyway, I graduated 1969, 1969, and which we all did, all graduated from college the same time, which was a neat thing that all of you started together and we finished together. And so a couple of my buddies that I had, not that I've even mentioned them, but they got drafted. Vietnam was a strong issue at the time, and a lot of the guys got drafted. I did not get drafted because I had braces on my teeth. Now that sounds silly. Uh, I had broken my arm earlier in my life, and it was just shattered in pieces. But they said they could fix that. And they didn't worry about that, but they didn't want to fool with my teeth. So I just kept my braces on until after I got out of college is when I got my braces off. Anyway, let's see. So I got a letter from the lady at the draft board that said you are hereby inducted into the armed services of the United States of America. So I said, well, I guess this is it. But she put a note in there, says, since you have graduated from college, if you don't want to go to Vietnam, you will need to get home and sign you a teaching contract, because they were deferring teachers. They needed teachers, especially male teachers. So I made my way back to Tennessee, and the same cousin who helped me get through school financially. It was instrumental in me getting a teaching position. The, so I got a job at an elementary school as a sixth grade teacher. I taught science and math, social studies, and PE. I taught PE to all classes, but the others were just fifth and sixth grade. So, it was, I had a lot to do. After 1 year of doing that, I met a young lady on a blind date during the summer. And before that summer was over, we had decided we wanted to spend our life together. And that was Elizabeth Breeding, who became Elizabeth Breeding Thornton. So
Well, let me
I
ask
went
you a
back.
question. How did you make it down to Alabama to meet her?
Her, my sister lived in the same town, and I went down there to buy a car from her son. He was a year older than me, and so I went down there and he sold me a car, and I said, "Well, get me a date while I'm there." So he got me a date, and that was the last person I dated.
Was that
Uh,
Hazel? Who was that?
that was Hazel, my oldest half sister. Her name was Hazel Hammonds, and she was a real good friend with my wife's mother. Matter of fact, the two fathers had worked together in a factory, and so it was a close relationship between the two families. So that's how the families got together, and that's how we got together. We met on early April and got married in August. So we didn't wait long. 4 months. 4 months. You still there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm there. I'm here.
I don't know what else to say.
All right. So you got married.
Oh,
Um, and
we were there. We were there 5 years
where?
at at Corinth. It was Farmington Elementary, and then my teaching certificate expired. I was just busy being a dad, and with the experience I got while I was uh, I'm trying to weed this in. I worked at a funeral home. The experience I got with the funeral home, I had a I did a lot of work with ambulances. Uh, 'Cause- so I ended up doing a lot of work at hospitals, emergency rooms. It was just kind of a side job that I did because I was married and had a family already, and we just had to make ends meet the best way you could. So
So you
once you,
drove an ambulance for how long? How long did you do that?
off and on, uh, 15 years or more, uh, a long time. But we just moved from there back to Jackson, Tennessee, because I had my teacher, like I said, my teacher certificate expired, so I had to get another job. So I ended up getting a job back in Tennessee, and I was there for 2 years teaching elementary school, sixth grade, self-contained. Had 40 kids in one class, so teaching conditions was different then than they are now.
What school?
I was at Beach Bluff Elementary,
So back at your original elementary school.
right back. So anyway, trying to put all this together.
Well, I just tell it how you want.
Huh? Anyway, I left Beach Bluff and we moved back to Hartselle. That's where Libby was from. And we were there. I taught junior high school, science. We were there for 13 years. And that just keeps on going. You still there?
Yeah, yeah, I'm here. I hear you.
Uh, anyway, I decided along the way, after that 13 years, that this wasn't what I really wanted to do. So I got out and got in the business of insurance, selling insurance. And that really did not last very long. Uh,
So where were you when you were back in Hartselle when you were selling insurance?
yeah,
Okay.
uh, I was selling insurance, and I only stayed with that for a year or so. So I got back in school, got another teaching position in Huntsville, Alabama, at a junior high school. And I stayed there for 2 more years. And then I moved from that position back to Hartselle, and I was got a job in there in Morgan County, teaching elementary again, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. PE, I always did sixth, seventh, eighth grade PE. And somewhere along the way, the superintendent come along and asked me if I wanted to take over a principalship at one of the local schools, which was close to where I was. So I said yes. It was a brand new school. It was an old school, but they were rebuilding it, so it was like a brand new school. So I was there for 13 years, and that's where I ended up. Retired from the state of Alabama, which you could do after 25 years. Then I moved back to Jackson. I got a job at Jackson Christian School, and stayed there for, I was mostly a counselor and a computer tech, and we stayed there for 11 more years until I called it quits. And that would be the end of it. 40 years, 42 years total teaching.
Wow.
Three
Yep.
kids along the way.
Right. Well, tell me, I know you did a lot of fishing and you did a lot of building big gardens. Tell me about your hobbies.
The guys I worked with, they had boats and I had to have me a boat. So we just did a lot of time fishing. And most of it was nighttime fishing. That way we just didn't have to fool with all the boats and stuff. So that was my fishing. The same bunch of us hunted together. Um, and we just shared everything together. Uh, we all, each one of us, the guys I taught with, all had big gardens. Uh, my garden was, oh, probably 2 acres. It was a huge garden. I had 6 acres of land, so I had plenty of room to raise a garden. I'd raise a one beef and one pig every year, so we had plenty of meat and had chickens. Or just a country boy.
Yeah, Joy says that it was more like 40 acres of a garden.
It seemed like it. I only owned six acres total, but it to the kids, to them, it seemed like something huge. Uh, but they did it. They did the work. Well, I didn't have to. I said I didn't. I may have. I just didn't feel like I had to push them. I just get this. I said it's time to go to work. Let's. So my wife worked, so I stayed home and kept the kids in the summertime. So that was just that's the way we got by without babysitters for the summertime. Yeah, I guess to the kids it did seem like a whole lot more than what it was.
Well, Joy overestimates and over dramatizes things. You know,
Well, that's her style.
that is her style.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. So, what would you say? I mean, as far as you're concerned, what would you say is your uh, thing you're most proud of?
Is my 3 kids have a wonderful life. All my kids are Christians. They got good families, Christians. It's just we've had a wonderful life together. Uh, that's what we're most proud of. You don't make a lot of money as a school teacher, but you succeed. Your success is, you can just look back in their life is our success. They've all done well. They've got good spouses. All my three of my children have a wonderful life. That I'm proud of.
Do you have any in particular? You had a lot of students over the years. You have a lot of any of them that stand out?
Uh, yes, I do. I had several that's famous. I had one girl who played basketball. She was 6'3". Ended up playing at Auburn University. From there, she played in the Olympics. She played over in Europe. So her life has been a real success. Now owns her own business down in Birmingham where they teach preschool. So she's got a good life. I had a
Well,
male
wait,
student.
name her and
Her,
how you interacted with her.
her name was Vicky Orr. Uh, I made contact with Vicky in the summertime, not through basketball, but through softball. I was I coached softball, and her and her uh, three of her sisters were all on my team. So she could play anything. She could play pitch, catch, shortstop, and she could do it all. So I could see from there, she's just got a gift in athletics. So when she come to the seventh grade time for basketball tryouts, I said, "Where's Vicky?" And they said, "She's on the bus. She's going home." And I said, "No, she's not." So I went out to the bus and drug her off the bus and said she had to go home. And I said, "We'll get you home." And so from that day forward, there was always someone who took care of Vicky. And she had a background of people who was just her family, uh, provided rides for, needed a place to stay, needed money. People took care of Vicky, and she was just a super human being. And her son has ended up playing basketball for Auburn University. He was 6'11", and then he has now been playing basketball in Europe uh, for over 10 years. I don't know exactly how long, but it's just been her life. I had another student who was just as famous. It was a young man. His name was Tim Lancaster. We performed, my PE students performed gymnastic stunts at halftime for our local basketball teams.
Uh-huh.
So I had a whole bunch of them, 10 to 15, where we would just do stunts and stuff for the half times, jump, turn flips, and do all kinds of stuff. Tim, he took it to the next level. When he got to high school, he played basketball, but he did cheerleading also because he could do the stunts that the girls couldn't do. When he got to college, he was a cheerleader, so he just kept doing it. He hooked up with another young man from Ole Miss, and they formed a group of guys that's called Bud Light Daredevils. Bud Light was their sponsor, and they went all over the world. I literally mean all over the world, performing these stunts in gymnasiums in Europe and everywhere. And he became a professional stunt person in Hollywood. Well, to this day, he's still doing that. He's 50, uh, he's in his 50s. I don't know, he could be 60, but he owns a cheerleading uh, outfit in Corinth, Mississippi. And girls from all over the southeast come to his gym to learn cheerleading, and he's still doing that. So that was kind of a successful thing for him to move on up. But there's been others. I can't think of anybody right now. Those two stand out more than anyone else.
Okay. So, is there anything else that you like to talk about you and your life?
I don't. I can't think of anything. I've just had a wonderful life, a wonderful wife, a wonderful life, uh, and three wonderful children who have seven wonderful kids.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to end it. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop the recording right at this moment, and then I'm going to start it up again. If you don't mind, we'll talk about your mom.
Okay.